Now doesn't this just remind you of Battlefield 2, using the QBB-95, playing on a car can map? Definitely brings back the nostalgia. But what's going on, guys, in the works? And yes, we are doing an underused weapons today. It's been a while since we've done one of these. This is one of the most popular series on my channel, and I've been working on my mastery quest with some of the support weapons. And one of the weapons I had left to do is the QBB-95, which is definitely a weapon you don't see all too often. Now, I was toying around with it. I was trying to get my 500 kills out of the way, and I was thinking about it. I was like, man, you know, this is definitely one of the more underappreciated LMGs in the game. Very rarely do I ever get killed by one of these. I feel like if I ever get killed by an LMG, it's either the M249, the 240 Bravo, or maybe like the PKP, and very, very rarely, but sometimes, it's the M60. Other than that, a lot of the LMGs you don't really see a lot of people using, let alone the QBB-95. But like I mentioned, this was a weapon that was in Battlefield 2. So this is kind of my Battlefield 2 support loadout on the car can maps, you know, rocking it old school, having fun with it. And I was thinking about, you know, what really separates the QBB from the other LMGs? I mean, it is a bullpup weapon. That's something that, you know, a lot of people tend to overlook. But it's definitely something that does give it some advantages over some of the other magazine-fed LMGs. Now, right out of the gate, we already know that, you know, bullpup weapons, they have better movement when aimed down sight. They tend to be a little bit more nimble. So if you want to play a little bit more aggressive, this actually gives you a pretty good choice if you're an LMG fan. Now, it does have better hipfire than the belt-fed LMGs. All the magazine-fed LMGs have better hipfire, but if you compare it to like the RPK or let's say the MG36, it does have better hipfire. So the bullpup does come into play a little bit, and I like it for that. Now, you may notice that I'm using a flash suppressor on it, and that does hurt your hipfire somewhat. Now, I've been toying around with a couple different attachments on this thing, and I actually kind of like flash suppressor. I think that since you do get a bonus for it being bullpup, you know, the flash suppressor is not that big of a deal. You still get pretty good hip fire for an LMG, and I tend to try to avoid hip firing at all possible with LMGs just because, you know, that's going to hurt it for the most part. You want to be aiming down sights. You want to be suppressing people with the LMGs. You don't want to be out there just spraying from the hip like a madman. So I do like this weapon, though. I've talked about it in one of my past underused weapons that I did with this, that it's kind of underrated. I think that it poses some statistical advantages that a lot of people overlook. We already talked about the bullpup feature, but the fact that the weapon, you know, it has a larger magazine than, let's say, the MG36. The MG36 only has 51 rounds in its magazine, whereas this has 76. And that's a pretty big upgrade. I mean, that's almost like 2 or 3 more people that you could potentially kill with this weapon versus a weapon like the MG36 versus a weapon like the RPK. But this thing controls a lot like its little baby brother, the QBZ-95, which is the engineer weapon. Considering that it's based off the same design, they have the same exact fire rates. A lot of times when I'm using this weapon, I feel like I'm using the QBZ-95. I mean, that's just essentially what it is. It's got really, really moderate recoil, and that's something that I really enjoy on a weapon. But it doesn't have the fastest fire rate. You know, 650 rounds per minute isn't anything to write home about. But like I said, it's controllable, and you can get your shots on target. And a lot of people like weapons like that. You know, it's not always about the high fire rate once you get outside of the close ranges, unless you're using like the M16, which is really easy to control at all ranges, it seems like. But there's an example of the hip fire right there. This thing's pretty good. I mean, like I said, I am using flash suppressor. I think some of the better choices may be like laser sight, and if you want to take it into like close quarters engagements, you know, you can get the heavy barrel unlocked now if you get enough kills. So there's all sorts of different things that you can do with the QBB-95, which I think kind of separates it. I think that it's actually a usable weapon, and I'm kind of surprised we don't see many people use it much these days, especially considering that it's more like a glorified assault rifle. It's much like the M27 IAR or like the RPK. It's just basically a big assault rifle. You know, it's not a belt fed. It's not about suppressing people. It's more about, you know, just being a weapon with a high capacity magazine on it. So I personally do enjoy using it from time to time. I don't have a ton of kills with it on PC. I think I just got my like 250, 300th kill or something like that. So I'm still working my way up to my mastery tag, and I do have a long way to go on this particular weapon. But some tips on using the QBB-95, since a lot of people get angry if I don't give you, tips on how to use some of these underused weapons, is flank, flank, and flank some more with it. You've got to use the 76 rounds to your advantage. The fact that you're a little bit more nimble than, let's say, the M249, the M240 Bravo, which are more, the belt feds are more for locking down areas, suppressing people. This is for playing a little bit more aggressive, and I think flanking people is where this is at its, its strength. The fact that you can have 76 rounds at your disposal means you can take out a lot of people. You know, you can catch them off guard before they even know what hit them. So definitely a weapon that I think is more versatile than a lot of people give it credit for. I think that I'm kind of surprised I don't see it used more often. So let me know, why don't you guys use the QBB-95 and what do you think about it? And I will see you guys next time. Peace.